Hello, Thrivers. Heather Choate here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And today is the final day of our 6 days of great communication challenge here in the Thriving Marriage. How are you doing? How has everything been going with this challenge? What have you loved about it? What insights have you gained? What shifts have you made? How is this affecting both you and your partner? We started off the challenge right off the bat, assessing where you were at. Where do you feel like you're at now on that scale of 1 being actually really good communication and 10 being you've got a lot of work to go? So hi, I see a couple of people watching. I didn't announce this. I just have a few minutes here to chat with you. Wanted to just touch on a few things we covered in the challenge, answer any questions that you might have so that we can really take this last 6 days and springboard it going forward into the future. So one thing I really wanted to touch on was on day 3, the challenge was to get the junk out and put the good in. And so here we're talking about the enemies and the friends of having good communication in your marriage. So let's first talk about what the junk is, what the enemies of good communication are in our marriages. Let's see. The first one is distraction. We live in the age of distraction and disruption, right? Have you ever had a conversation with someone, I'm sure we all have, probably even today, where they are on their phone and they're barely, giving you any eye contact. They're just like messaging something and you're trying to share something really important with them, but they're completely distracted. Or have you been that person? I'm sure we all are, guilty as charged, where someone's been wanting to communicate something with you and you're distracted with something on your phone or a device or the television or a sports game, right? Whatever it is. So distraction is a big one. We cannot truly understand each other if we're multitasking and not giving each other full attention. So as a habit, make sure that you set aside times in your family and in your marriage that are distraction-free zones. You can even have it be a cell phone-free zone or cell phone-free time. For us, the dinner table. We use the dinner table to read scriptures with our children, but other than that, we've made it just a rule across the board that neither of us, our children don't have phones yet, but when they do, I guess, later in their years, that will be a cell phone-free zone. That way we can really give the very best of ourselves to each other. And there's really, I heard it called a zombie apocalypse. The zombie apocalypse is upon us now because we are walking around kind of like half-living people and we don't even know how to carry on a conversation with each other anymore. It's like we're just shadows of people rather than actual people. So thus the zombie apocalypse metaphor there. But making sure that we turn off the devices, give each other our full attention. How often do we see even young people nowadays that they can text each other, they can message each other, they can Facebook comment and like, but if you put them in the same room together, they don't even know how to communicate with each other. So we want to make sure that we're not falling into that same trap, even though we're not of that generation, with our marriages. So making sure it's a distraction-free, we give the very best of ourselves to each other. That includes eye contact, physical touch, listening to respond, listening to hear rather than listening to respond. Okay, so enemy number 1 is distraction. Number 2, judgment. That's where you're going to be judging what they're saying. You're putting your own lens on what they're saying rather than seeking to understand. Defensiveness, taking whatever that person is telling you and internalizing it, becoming immediately defensive and putting up walls. That's an enemy of successful communication. And then escalation. This is a really big one. I want to touch on this here for just a few minutes. So escalation is like fighting fire with fire. And let's just go deep into that. Okay, so if your spouse comes to you and they're really upset at something you did, it's very easy to feel upset at them in return and to start bring up things that they did, everything that they're doing, right? Turn from attacking to attacking to attacking to attacking. Let's talk about why we do that. Why do we feel like if someone does something to us, we want to do it back to them? If we really step back from it and think about for a moment what it is, first of all, there's a lot of human emotions and instinctual reactions that happen, but Is it because we want them to feel what we're feeling? Oftentimes that's where we're coming from. So they made me feel bad. They made me feel insecure. They made me feel like I wasn't important. I'm going to do the same to them to show them what it feels like so they'll stop doing it to me. We think on some level that that's going to be effective, but it doesn't ever really get us there. Of course not. If you really step back and take a look at that, I'm doing this because you're doing this and I want to show you what it feels like to me, it only perpetuates that cycle and no real understanding happens. So I want you to really connect into this, like lean into this with me for a minute. What we really want above all is to be understood by our partner. We want them to understand, wow, I know where you're coming from. Okay, I can understand why that's difficult for you. I can understand why you felt that way, right? So when we're bringing the fire to the fire, that's not the way we get the understanding. I'm going to use a little story here. There once was an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed that fly. Perhaps she'll die. Okay, where does the story go from there? And why am I talking about the little old lady who swallowed a fly? That's really mature, Heather. But there's a great illustration here. In this story, where the lady swallows the fly, she then swallows a cat and a dog and I don't even know, like a horse or something. She creates a bigger and bigger and bigger problem for herself. So we do the same thing so many times when we get into this mode of escalating. We have one issue happen and then it turns into this bigger issue and this bigger issue and this bigger issue. The old lady swallowed the fly and now she's got a horse inside of her, right? So we all have the opportunity though. We might swallow a fly and we will. We all have problems. We all have difficulties. We all make mistakes. Our spouse will make mistakes. So it's what we choose to do about it at that point. Do we want to just swallow the fly or do we want to swallow the entire farm, right? So choosing at that moment to bring things back down a level instead of escalating things further. So escalation is a major enemy of good communication. All right. The final one is bringing up the past, okay? So sometimes we say, or we hear other people say, well, 7 years ago, you did this and this and this and this, and I'm going to start bringing it up now because you're bothering me about this now. So if something happened 7 years ago, a year ago, and then it's that long ago, it needs to stay there. It just needs to stay there. The only reason why you're bringing up things from the past is to try to use it as leverage against your partner. And the truth is that that's never going to get you what you really want. It's only going to bring up more problems. My spouse doesn't forgive me. My spouse doesn't know how to let things go. I feel like I can never do anything right. No matter how hard I try, it seems like they are going to be stuck on this forever. How good does that feel to be on the receiving end of that kind of treatment? No matter how hard I try, they're never going to let this go. So honestly, why should I keep trying? Does anyone relate to that? When you're on the receiving end of your spouse bringing up things from the past, time and time again, to use them to hurt you, to use you as leverage, to try to prove a point, eventually it makes them want to throw up their hands and say, well, I'm trying, but you don't see that anyway, so I guess I'm just going to be done trying. That's a really natural human emotional response to that type of situation. So do not bring up things from the past. Let the dead bury their dead. Let the past lie in the past. Draw a line in the sand and say, okay, that's where we were. This is where we want to be now. John just says, let it go. Absolutely. Just have to let it go. So let's talk about the friends of good communication here for a few minutes. Putting the good into your communication in your marriage. So the opposite of some of the things that we talked about, we're definitely going to have full focused attention. We're going to give our spouse our full focus. Honestly, isn't that one of the best gifts that we can give each other nowadays? Right? I would personally rather have Ben's full attention for 30 minutes than, him bringing home $1,000 watch or something. If that means nothing to me, but his full focus, especially in this age when it's so easy to be distracted. And we're in a culture and a habit of being distracted. Give your partner that full focused attention. Now I lost my point. There we go. And then compliments. Yesterday's challenge was all about compliments and appreciation, because what gets praised gets repeated. So when your spouse does something that you really want them to do, then recognize them for that and give them some appreciation and some gratitude. Let them know how much that means to you. And you will be amazed at how often they will do that. So just a little case study here, an example from one of our clients was that she was really bothered because her husband wouldn't respond to her calls right away. And so she would get really, really upset. He wouldn't answer the first time. She'd try again in 30 minutes. He wouldn't answer again. She'd leave a message. She'd text him. Still wouldn't hear anything. Maybe even a couple hours would go by. By the time he finally called, once they got on the phone together, she was like, why didn't you answer my call? And, why don't you just pick up? And, she just launched into him with a lot of negativity. And what we helped her see was that when you're doing that, you're actually criticizing the exact thing that you want, right? You're bringing him down. And so switch that. Say, thank you so much for calling me back. I so appreciate it. What do you think happened? Within just a short amount of time, who was calling her back more frequently, right? Who was complaining about it less and less? Exactly. Appreciation and gratitude are one of the most healing and powerful energies that we have. There's nothing better than the feeling of knowing that someone appreciates you. And there's nothing better than that feeling of showing appreciation to your spouse. So when they do something that you really would like them to continue doing, then recognize them for that. And even the things that they're doing and maybe you've just gotten used to, still recognize the gift that is and show them some gratitude. Okay, and then the other good friends of communication are compassion. We went into that in depth on the live stream about showing your spouse understanding. One note I just wanted to touch on with that, having that empathy, seeking to understand where they're coming from, is that feelings are always right. Feelings are always right. The facts might be wrong. The situation might be wrong. The interpretation of a situation might be wrong, but a feeling is always 100% true. You cannot argue with the way someone feels because the way they feel is true to them. One of the most, I don't know what the word is, but I guess it's like frustrating, but one of the most frustrating things I hear is that, well, they shouldn't feel that way because I don't feel that way. And what you really want to do is do a complete 180 reversal on that and recognize if it's true to them, it's true. If my spouse thinks that me wanting to go to Zumba, okay, this is a recent one, me wanting to go to Zumba once a week instead of spending time with him means I'm wanting to connect in other ways with other people is a threat to him, then that's true to him. That's not my intention, but to him, that is truth. And so I need to acknowledge that and understand that. I can't fight it. I can't make him change his mind because his feelings are true to him. Just like when you feel something, it is true to you. That's the way you feel, and that's 100% truth to you. So recognize that feelings are always true. Understand why they feel that way. That's where you can work to change those things. Does that make sense? Can you see the value in that? Just appreciate that our feelings, they always feel 100% valid to us. So don't try to change the way someone feels. Seek to understand where they're coming from and why they feel that way. That way you can have something to work on from there. Thanks for the hearts. Appreciate that. And then last thing is just level-headedness. Coming into all of our communications from a place of calmness, centeredness, and having direction in what you want to communicate about. So if you are feeling really high emotion, really upset, if your spouse is not the right time to communicate, you want to separate, pick a time when you'll come back to it at a better time, because you do not want to bring in that escalation. You want to show that empathy, you want to have that understanding. Clear communication can only happen when you come from a place of level-centeredness. That way you can actually get to solutions to your problems instead of venting or just being so upset about them. What you really want. Tell me if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, I want to know if there's someone out there that thinks I'm wrong. That's totally okay. But I don't think so. What we really, really want is solutions. We want understanding from other people. We want them to know where we're coming from. We want to feel significant, valued, and important. And we want solutions. So in your communications, are they getting you to those solutions? And if not, make sure you're incorporating these friends of good communication. All right, guys, I got to go run for our team meeting. We talk about how to better serve you and help you every single week. So if you have any ideas, any feedback for us, we would love to hear it. I hope these have helped you, the enemies and their friends of good communication. Excellent job on everyone who took up this challenge, went at it 100%. I'd love to hear your feedback on how this went for you and the difference that it's making. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. All right, talk to you later.